What up, everybody? JP Finlay, Redskins Talk podcast. We are brought to you by the great folks, Oarsman Automotive of Virginia. We ride with them. Hope you do the exact same thing. We have Mitch Tischler, Pete Hailey, and we have Michael Phillips from the Richmond Times-Dispatch, Richmond bureau chief of the Redskins Talk podcast, joining us. Before we dig in, there's some news we gotta start with. Redskins rookie wide receiver Antonio Gandy-Golden. It came out on Wednesday that he tested positive for the coronavirus. This happened a while ago. He's since self-quarantined and has had a 100% recovery. He is fine. He's a really healthy, freak athlete young man. I think that's what most would expect if you're going to contract the coronavirus, but still, it's a big deal. I want to welcome everybody in, and I want to start there. We have a lot of stuff to get to, most of it more fun, but because of the topic and because of where we are in the world, I think it's important to start right there. We'll go around the horn and we'll welcome our guest first. Philly. What'd you think of AGG and the COVID stuff?
Well, your fear is, Von Miller apparently had it real bad out in Denver, and then you're seeing the reports a couple of days ago that he still can't get back to full training capacity. It's still messing with his lungs all this time later. So your fear, of course, is that this bleeds into when the fall of the training camp has a long-term impact. On the other hand, this could be great for him. I've told my wife, I don't want to have the coronavirus, certainly not while I have it. But once you've had it and you're on the other side, you're in a really good spot. You can got to do whatever you want to do. So if he can get through it and get to the other side, I think that's an enviable position.
It's an interesting point. I have a buddy I grew up with, or I went to college with rather, Bo Gorman. He actually went on the Junkies and stuff. He had it, was in New York, was one of kind of the first people to really get it and come out and speak out. In the time since, he's totally cured. He's flying out to Oregon to play Bandon Dunes because you can get out there so cheap. Flights are so cheap, and he's like, man, I'm bulletproof. I'm good. So that's an interesting point. Pete.
He said in his statement that it happened pre-draft on March 24th, and that just kind of struck me. I looked at the calendar. I said, it's May 20th, and he got it March 24th. It just shows how long this whole thing's been going on, and I'm sure it's weird almost that him and the Rams guy, I feel like, are the only two players we've really heard who have had it, and Von Miller. I'm surprised there hasn't been more, but I'm sure there will be more to come. But hopefully, like Antonio did, the rest of the guys who get it will be able to recover quickly. I don't really have much to say, but it was an interesting story, and it definitely brings it closer to home when it's a player on the team you cover.
Isn't that fascinating, though? It wasn't even enough of a thing at the Combine that, anybody thought of it, mentioned it, tested for it, anything.
That was the last normal football thing we had was the Combine.
I mean, Phil, we were all at the Combine together, right? Were you not there?
No, I wasn't at the Combine this year. I was doing my basketball thing.
Oh, that's right. So Mitch and I were there, and we talked about this a couple weeks ago at the Combine. It was that thing ain't coming here. It was
yeah.
You heard a little bit about it, but it was and that was end of February, early March. Mitch, I want to let you react to the AGG news, and then we'll get into our usual stuff.
There's not much. I think what Philly said was kind of where I was at. Just we've seen the pictures of Dwayne throwing with some of the other receivers, out at the practice fields from his photographer guy on Instagram. So I think that, it's one of those things where you're he's good now. He can go out there and do stuff and not worry about anything.
Has he been in those pictures? I feel like it's been Harmon and Terry and Sim.
I'm saying he can go out there, if there was any is that okay for him to be doing that? For those guys, it's cool. And I think as a lot of guys start getting tested and, whenever they are allowed back to the facility and stuff, I think we're going to find out more guys have had it than, maybe know about it. And it's just a kind of a reminder, like Pete said, just a reminder that it's right around the corner. And, if that had happened at training camp or when the team was together, I'm curious how the NFL will decide they're going to react to something along those lines. Is it, so that was kind of my only thoughts to it.
Yeah. I mean, I think the reality of this thing is millions of people have had this and just aren't getting tested or have either been kind of sick or have moved on. I don't know that, but when you look at the amount of people getting tested versus the amount of people in the country, it's hard to imagine that lots of people haven't had this and just didn't get officially diagnosed. But this will be our last thing because I want to move on to John Allen talk today, Landon Collins talk today. We have our first ever Prove Me Wrong segment, which is going to be a doozy. Philly didn't even know what he was walking into.
It's
But
going to be a doozy.
It does present an interesting situation because the way I look at it, baseball and hockey are pressing the gas on getting their season back. Basketball seems kind of there and kind of not. And if you look at the NBA, it's such a player-centric league with a player-centric commissioner. And I think the other sports are just a little bit different. But regardless, even if football is the first one back this fall or this August, 0 positive tests is not possible. The NFL's top doctor came out and said some guys getting this is inevitable. And in a way, it kind of just crosses the Redskins off the list for the inevitability of this thing. And I wonder, to Mitch's point or question, what will happen. Right now, it's okay because the player is fine, most importantly, and nobody had been together, right? Like the team's not assembled together. But let's say we get to Richmond or maybe training camps in Ashburn, wherever it is, and somebody pops positive. What are they going to do? Because you look at what UFC did, and they just pulled the fighter and maybe his corner man or whatever. Team sports are different, but I think that's going to be the plan. And you just pull that guy, you test everybody, and you try to keep monitoring. I think they're going to have to go into this. If we know the inevitabilities of this thing, I think they're going to know it too.
It's going to be a weird year because you're going to have to ask the question at some point, how many guys on the team is too many to continue to field the team? Like if 6 dudes get it and get pulled, can they play that weekend? Is that okay? If 7, if Haskins is one of them, like do you have a case for like, let's kick this game down the road? They're going to have to make some tough calls.
Well, I mean, it'll be interesting if Hale Hentages gets it versus Chase Young. You know, is that going to be is there going to be a difference between, you know, the 53rd man on the roster and, you know, a star player? What if Tom Brady gets it? You know, like what do you do if you're the NFL and the starting quarterback of the team that's the best team in the league? It's an interesting.
It's the old Bill Parcells line. I don't treat everybody the same, but I treat everybody fair. And I think you also weirdly added an extra syllable to my guy Hale Hench's name. You said
Hale
Hentages.
I definitely throw a T in there.
It's just gonna be weird, like looking back maybe in 10 years, and if we look at an injury report from this season, it's gonna be like ankle, knee, and then like coronavirus. Is that what it's gonna say on the injury report? It's just all this is so odd, and there's so much more oddities to come, I think.
Well, and Ron has, if you ask around the league, and kind of what Ron has hinted at, that like he doesn't provide injury information. We're not gonna get many details. So like if a guy misses Wednesday practice because he's got coronavirus, you got to say something. That's different than sprained thumb. Or that's a great point, Pete.
Illness. I don't know if they'll just label it illness.
Yeah.
Sprained thumb, you stay on the exercise bike, you jump back in. Coronavirus, man, you're going to have to work your way back up to full speed when you get back. You're not just popping back in.
Not to mention, you can't be at the facility.
You saw the NFL was exploring about building in masks inside the face mask. Like, I can't imagine that works, but you see the extent of which they're trying to figure out what the hell they can do with this thing.
I saw a mask with a hole so you can go to restaurants and eat dinner. Have you seen that? I don't know if that was a real thing, but I saw it on the internet.
Make it retractable like a baseball stadium roof.
Right, like the Sky Dome in Toronto. All right, let's. That was weird. That was really weird, Mitch.
That's okay.
Let's start now, because that was our best attempt to be real newsmen. And Philly, as a real newsman, last I checked, you're the damn editor of the Richmond Times-Dispatch. How did we do? Did we deliver the news in our best Tom Brokaw?
I thought it was Walter Cronkite. It was absolutely top shelf.
All right, great. All right, let's go through this. Jonathan Allen gave a press conference today, and Landon Collins gave a press conference today. Mitch and I were in transit for much of this because we have a gang of awesome content coming from this podcast all the way through all of next week. So you guys are gonna. We pulled out all the stops because we're all trying to take a couple days off for Memorial Day and the break. So we stacked some interviews that are going to be great. So you two can decide how you want, Philly and Pete. I want a recap of each presser. Pete gets to go first. Pete gets to pick first.
I will do Jonathan, and I'll just kind of do, I guess, a couple takeaways here. Jonathan was first. He was driving to the golf course as he held this press conference, which was a unique way to do this. But a couple things that I liked. One, he said he went out to dinner with Ron Rivera and Ron Rivera's wife, and John took his wife out. They went to DC Prime. We weren't sure on the date, but I think that was a really good bonding experience for them. And it's not a surprise, but John Allen said they get along great. He loves everything Ron's saying. He loves everything he's hearing about Ron. I mean, those two are about as serious as it gets, so I'm not shocked that they enjoy each other's company, but I just thought that was a cool little nugget. And then as far as the 4-3, there's been a lot of talk about how it's going to immediately improve this team, but John pointed out how they were in the 4-3 a lot last year, playing nickel and things like that. I think the number he said was 55 to 60%.
Yeah, totally.
So while there's justified excitement about the 4-3, I think the excitement should be more about Ron Rivera and Jack Del Rio being the coaches as opposed to those coaches putting in a new scheme, because they played that scheme a bunch last year. So John kind of harshed the vibe a little on that switch. Still very excited, very optimistic, but as usual, he closed things out by saying we still have to go do it. So he loves Ron. He kind of harshed the 4-3 vibe, and in the end, he stuck to the same message he's been sticking with for a long time. I love that you guys want to talk about this team, but we need to go do it. So that's the John Allen recap for you.
Hey, Mitch, you noticed that Michigan Pete's talking about harshing vibes? He's worried about his mellow, I think.
I mean,
all right,
all
Philly,
I need is for all of our friends on Twitter to let me know every time, tweet, Pete.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess he's close to Canada, but that stuff's legal everywhere now. I mean, who knows what's going on up there?
No comment. Phillips, what did Landon Collins say today?
This is like at the big games when they have multiple sideline reporters. You know, let's go to the other locker room, get the report. Yeah. I would also add, you left out Jonathan Allen's best line. He was going to play golf. He said, I got to stay sane. There's nothing to do here in Ashburn. And we've been in Ashburn when there are things to do and there's nothing to do in Ashburn.
Right. That's irregardless of coronavirus.
Situation right now. Landon Collins was not in Ashburn. He was in an unrevealed large city. There were definitely skyscrapers behind him. It wasn't a Zoom background bit. It was real.
You think it's Miami? Everybody goes to Miami.
Well, he was referring to guys being in Maryland and was saying down there. So either that's like just how he talks, or he was above Maryland and Virginia.
I think it's how he talks.
Only you do directions by above, below, left, right. That way.
You thought Green Bay was in Texas.
I think I just said down and to the left.
Yeah.
Down and to the left.
All right, Philly, you clearly are more aware of what's going on, so please continue.
Landon Collins is very complimentary of the new coaching staff. He said that they are very much on the details, called it a very stern team meeting. He felt like Ron Rivera laid the law down. It's going to be strong discipline, strong accountability, was very much in favor of all those things. Said everybody has to know what everybody else in the defense is doing. When people bring up things like that, unprompted, you always say like, maybe perhaps they did not have to know that in the previous regime. So something to file away there. Said he's making an emphasis on these Zoom meetings to let the young guys know they can reach out to him with questions. If they have playbook questions, whatever, he wants to be a resource, even though he is up, down, left, right, unclear which direction he is. Even though he is in that direction, he is available to the younger players, and was very bullish on Jimmy Moreland. To be fair, was specifically asked about Jimmy Moreland, but to be doubly fair, was very bullish on Jimmy Moreland.
You asked him about Jimmy Moreland, Pete? Is that why you just waved your hand?
Yeah, he had a long Twitter Q&A a couple weeks ago where he answered a million questions, and he brought up Moreland a couple times as a breakout star, so I just asked why, and he said, like, looking at the tape, it looked like Moreland could have had a bunch of interceptions, but just didn't trust himself, so he thinks in year two, a more confident and comfortable Moreland will produce and show people the player he can be.
It's interesting. I mean, we saw him make a ton of plays in camp. That was his reputation in college. Granted, it was JMU, but JMU plays some really good football. So I was kind of an eavesdropper. I was on the Landon Collins call, but I wasn't like participating just because I had a lot of stuff going on at that moment in time. And there was also so much hijinks in between there that I just decided not to engage. But
Pete's photo of Les on Twitter was a top tier.
Did you see that, JP or Mitch, what I tweeted?
Oh, I saw it. It looked like Les fell asleep in between. So there was like, what, 20 minutes in between?
Yeah,
30 minutes?
Yeah, and there
Which it was later
28
revealed. It was later revealed that Landon was talking to Jonathan Allen during that 20 minutes.
Oh,
yeah.
really? About what?
Just like catching up, I think. But there's like 28 participants on the Zoom call. And in between, it's like, all right, when Landon's here, he'll be here. So we all kind of turn off our cameras, and eventually all 26 becomes 4 or 5. And then eventually it's just Les by himself. And Les is just like looking at his phone and kind of looking around. And at one point,
hold on, you can't just it's one thing if you tweet that at him, so it's not going out to the world. But you sent that to the world and then added him.
Yeah, he texted me and said it was funny and was okay with it. But it was just a perfect picture. We were all off camera except for Les. We were just all looking at Les's face.
Is that borderline? Like,
I think it's a little borderline.
I have 0 legs to stand on here.
Yeah.
In terms of what is or not issue.
The first time there was an availability, that was Matthew Paris. Was just sitting there full screen. He had the mustache still. It was a look, and I very badly wanted to take a picture and send it, but thought it was out of bounds.
Dude, our media room is so past borderline all the time. That was like a 4 out of 10 on the scale.
Yeah, but that's in the room, not publicly on Twitter.
This is our room now. This is our room.
All right. To me, that was a Gary Carter move. So you can take that.
That was a Gary Carter move.
You can take that any way you want it.
That's all right.
But Philly, I wanted to dive back real quick. So I heard LC talking about the meeting with Ron. Did we get any, like, when was that? Why? What? Like, it's the middle of May, and nobody's, like, you can't, normally coaches pick their spot because they're going to get pissed off about something, and somebody runs a drill kind of lazy. There's a couple penalties, and coaches are like, all right, I'm going in. But, like, nobody's run any drills poorly. Like, what occurred for Rivera to get fired up?
And a very important piece of context here, this was actually the entire building. This was not just, I don't know if it was like all the way down to accounting, but this was everybody inside.
130 people, he said,
who was on this call. So, this could be just as simple as, hey, I know everybody's at home, but get your ass in gear. Let's get to work here.
So Ron was also on Zoom with a bunch of military families this morning. He explained that meeting on Monday was his first chance to really address everybody. He said he would have loved to do it in person, but that was his first, what I want to accomplish, my intentions are meeting. So I think that's why he was so stern. He was just trying to make it clear who he was, and he said 130 people, players, staff, and support staff. So I think, it wasn't necessarily spurned by anything. It's just Ron trying to set the tone.
So let me present this to the group, and then we're going to move on to our Prove Me Wrong segment, which will be a doozy. I think this will change once we get to football season. But I think since he's taken over, and in the time of player evaluations, free agency, and the draft, Ron Rivera has kind of acted more as like a team president than a head coach. And I think a lot of that is about kind of getting his house in order. But if you look at the organizations he often mentions with the what does he say, the coach first philosophy? Coach centric, thank you. You talk about Kansas City, you talk about Seattle, and certainly New England. And while the Chiefs, the Seahawks, the Pats, they have great personnel departments, all of that, like, Belichick's in charge. Andy Reid, especially now with a ring on his finger, is in charge. Pete Carroll's chomping gum at the owner. Like, Pete Carroll's in charge up there. I think Ron is – we knew he was in charge of everything, but I think he's in charge of everything. And I think once we get in season, like, I think Jack Del Rio is going to be calling the defensive plays on Sundays. Obviously, Scott Turner is going to run that offense. I think Ron is CEOing this thing. And especially if you tell me that's a call with everybody – I asked this question sincerely. Do you think Jay Gruden ever addressed 130 people? Because right? I mean, 55 people on the team. Let's say, including QCs and everything, let's say it's a 20-person coaching staff, so you're up to 75. Another 20 from the front office. Well, let's call it around 100. Like the other 30 are coming from business ops or something. They're not
Marketing,
coming from
sales.
Right. I mean, they're coming from that other side of the building. And I think Ron is kind of, hey, we're all in, because for so long under Bruce, we know how siloed and divided and sectored everything was. And Ron has talked about literally tearing out doors to the building to make everything more open. I think he's telling the world that, like, the Redskins world anyway, like, listen, man, we're all in this together, but you're all going to effing listen to what I'm saying.
I think when you look at when Bruce was there and he was kind of the go-between between ownership and football and stuff like that.
Conduit. There is no more conduit, and I think that's very important.
He very much didn't want a lot of the relaxed atmosphere that we saw around Redskins Park, and part of that was from the head coach that was there. I think we've seen in a short period of time, even though we haven't even been in the building and physically seen it, how Ron is going to handle things. I think he's trying to get everything buttoned up, and you see it. And I think you listen to the way that people have talked about him, and that goes from the players that we've talked to and, the other coaches down to, Larry Michael on Redskins Nation talks about it. Like, it's a feeling through the building that he's very much trying to get this thing on the straight and narrow.
There's only one other comparable here, and that's Gibbs. Gibbs obviously did whatever he wanted when he was in the building. But I think people forget that Shanahan, in the first couple of years, Bruce was a marginal character the first couple of years. Shanahan came in with a little bit more power. Not this level, but Ron also knows this can go away really quickly if he doesn't win football games. Like,
right.
He's got a limited window. He's got to take care of business right now, because he will never be more powerful than right now unless he ends up winning playoff games, and then he can come back and have more.
Can we tell a quick Shanahan story? Were you here for the beginning of Shanahan, Philly?
No.
So in Shanahan's first year, they were doing training camp in Ashburn at the facility, and about halfway through training camp, he came through, or the PR staff came through, or somebody came through and dropped notes on everyone's desk in the meeting, in the press room, and then in the tents. And it was Shanahan's rules for covering the team. And like, rule number 1 was no unnamed sources. Asterisk, if you continue to use unnamed sources, you may not be given access to Redskins Park anymore, or something along those lines. And obviously there was a big blowback from the media, and they ended up recollecting those papers, and there was some internal dialogue about how they wanted to send that message out. But it's very much that same feeling with Ron, where you had Mike, who was very frustrated with all the leaks and the drips and everything that you're hearing, and they were coming from, all walks of the building. I think you're seeing Ron take that same approach where he doesn't want, all that kind of stuff. Of course, you look at where Shanahan ended up at, and there was a full-on faucet of information coming out of there every game day morning. So you take it for what it's worth, but it feels very similar to the way that
fire hose more than a faucet. But
yeah.
All right, that was a good combo. Want to thank the good folks, Oarsman Automotive of Virginia. We ride with them. Want you to do the exact same thing. Go check out our guy Bob Biaggi, Oarsman Chevrolet, Buick, GMC. Philly, I've known you for a while now. I don't think I've ever seen you drive a vehicle but that little RTD car they give you. What is your actual car?
My actual car is a Toyota Corolla stick shift.
That doesn't surprise me. The way you drive a minivan, I can only imagine how you drive a Corolla with a little get up at a red light. Go ahead.
I inherited it. The stick shift is not my preference.
Philly, I think you listen to the pod sometimes, but we are operating under the premise within these podcast walls that there's going to be football. That's how we're operating. So when we go to Arizona week 2, are we going back to the Grand Canyon?
We're certainly going back to the Eclair shop to get revenge on Kimes betting. That's for sure.
I'm still mad at that guy.
And I contend we have to go to Prescott so we can make some money betting on the horses.
I don't think we're going back to Prescott.
Have you guys done Camelback before?
Yes.
Yeah. I'd be content doing Camelback, having a couple beers, calling it a day, I think.
All right.
What?
We got time. Are
we going back to the canyon? Wait, are we going back to the canyon in the minivan?
That's what I just asked you. That's how this started.
I'm in.
I vote canyon. What is Pete saying?
It's a 4:00 kickoff. We shouldn't be bagging it early, but I'm down for Canyon. I've never been. If I can sit in the trunk, I'll do it.
You don't go on game day, Pete. That this is a day before situation.
I know, but I'm saying just calling it, giving a couple beers, and then calling it. We need to continue and escalate the night till a lot later, so we can stay up late and study film and prepare for our shows and stuff. Right, JP?
Yep, Pete. You always nail it, pal.
Pete,
For everybody watching on YouTube, Phillips and
before we go past it, though, you know I'm the king of maximizing road trips.
You're the king of a lot of things, so it doesn't surprise me to hear that.
The day after that Redskins-Cardinals game, season opener, stadium opener in Vegas, Monday Night Football.
We'll see what happens soon.
100% in on that.
I mean, don't we, assuming the creek don't rise, don't we go to Vegas in 2021?
Well, I'm not against going to Vegas in both years. That would not offend me.
I also want to ask.
We are running out of time, you gang of idiots.
Real
Please.
quick, Pete, you recognize a 4 o'clock Cardinals game is 1 o'clock in Arizona.
Oh. All right. Yeah, that's a tough L for your boy. Woo.
I wasn't gonna say it, but I was thinking it the whole time.
Somebody needs to say it. Thank you, Mitch. I'm sorry. It's so dumb of me. I'm an idiot. All right, JP, up to you, pal.
Well, sadly, we're going back to you, Pete. Notice for everybody on YouTube, Phillips and Pete are giving tribute to the great city of Richmond. Phillips has, I don't know, the James River Bridge. Is there a name for that bridge behind you?
Yeah, it is unfortunately named the Robert E. Lee Bridge.
Ooh, getting hot in here. Pete, what do you got?
I have Baja Bean, which was our favorite dive bar. It has since ceased operation, but I'm choosing to remember it from its better times.
And what about you, Mitchell?
I got the practice facility behind me. I'm ready to run on that little half field. You can see our tent right here over my shoulder.
And to be clear, we're not going to be in Richmond.
No, doesn't seem like it.
You don't think so, Philly?
There's no point in coming down here if you're not going to let the fans in, and I don't see how they would be willing to assume that risk at this point.
And JP standing up to get.
It'll be interesting. It'll certainly be interesting to see what they do.
Yeah, I don't think.
Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if they bag the entire preseason schedule.
I think you want to know what I really think, and I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but what the hell? I think preseason is gone. I think they put all the players up at Lansdowne. They got enough hotel space there for the whole team.
Yep. And
they're quarantined there. I wonder if it's not the damn season. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't think we're traveling anywhere. We'll see. A lot of football left.
I'm going to push back on that. I think media. I think there's going to be a select amount of media is going to be allowed to travel.
We'll find.
I don't think you're going to get a full-on field.
But then you need the media outlet to send the person too. You know what I mean? Like, one, a lot of media outlets are hemorrhaging cash right now. Two, they have to feel comfortable in letting their employee go.
Well, Phillips basically owns the paper, so he's just going to send himself.
That's correct.
All right, Pete, you're up. Read Jay Blunt's Prove Me Wrong segment, and we're all going to say bullish or bearish.
All right, so do you want me to read each sentence and then have you guys react?
I want you to read his intro because it's really funny, and then, read each sentence and we'll react.
Can we also just real quick throw a happy birthday to our guy, Jay? It's his birthday today. Today's his birthday. Well, by the time the pod gets posted, today will be his birthday.
All right, happy birthday.
Okay, the intro. I don't really know what you mean by that, JP, but basically he sent a spreadsheet with a bunch of crazy stats, and the whole thing is that he's bullish, and he wants us to either prove him wrong or agree with him on these 5
Where did Philly go?
Stats for the defense. Is Philly gone? Did we lose Philly?
He's there.
Okay, here.
The plug for my laptop quit working. It says I have 4 hours of battery left, so at our current pace, we should be able to maybe get to the end of this.
Yeah.
And this was with me giving us all a pep talk about keeping it tight.
Oh, yeah.
So these are Jay's 5 bold predictions for the 2020 defense, and he wants you to prove him wrong. So the first one, he thinks the defense will have at least a 50% improvement in every category. That's wild. So I'm just going to read all 5 of these. Number
No,
two,
no.
the skin.
Hold on.
Go ahead.
I want to dig in one by one.
Okay.
So to me, a 50% improvement. Let's just go with total defense. I think they rank 27th. Does that sound right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
He has the spreadsheet here: 27th in defense, 27th in yards, 30th in
Let's just
passing
go with
touchdowns.
defense. Let's just go with total defense. So a 50% increase means they improve by 13 spots and get up to 14th,
Ish, yeah.
more or less.
Yeah.
I think that should be the goal. I think that's a reasonable goal to get into the top half of the NFL in defense.
It's our
So I don't
first look
think
at
that's-
bullish bearish. What's your call?
Reasonably bullish.
I, on that one, am going to be unreasonably bullish. I think that the
There
improvement.
is no unreasonably bullish. You're just all the way. The scale is bearish, reasonably bearish, neutral, reasonably bullish, bullish.
The section has like 9 names already.
I'm taking it to the next level as unreasonably bullish. First one out the gate. I think that that the coaching staff. I think that the coaching staff is going to make an enormous difference. And the one thing that John Allen said today that Pete didn't mention was, as he talked about the 4-3, he talked about how aggressive that the coaching staff is talking about them wanting to be. And that's the biggest thing that we didn't see last year, heck, from the front 7, not even the front 4. So I think you're going to see those guys moving forward, playing through the run to get to the quarterback. I think is going to be a huge difference, and that's going to buoy them above more than 50% improvement.
Okay, so in this segment that's either called Prove Me Wrong or Bullish or Bearish, this first statement is complete tomfoolery. They might be better in one or two categories by 50%, but he says at least a 50% improvement in every category. That is not happening.
We're just doing total defense. How many times do I have to say that?
His claim was every category.
I don't care about that. Just answer total defense. That's what I'm telling you to do. Do that.
I think top 15 is fair, so 13th, hell, it's close enough. I don't know what to say. Is that bullish, bearish? I think it's fine.
That's reasonably bullish. Why is this so hard?
Nope. We need to go with this. Bulls and bears. It's a stock market thing. Which one's good? Which one's bad?
That's why these are stock market guys.
This whole segment's going off the rails.
I want Pete to answer.
Well, so, I mean, bullish is usually you're optimistic. Bearish is bad. I'm assuming that carries over into the stock market. So bullish means the stocks are good. The bulls, you want to buy the bulls?
Phillips, you're up.
I am 1996 Chicago Bulls-ish on this one. I think they get the job done.
Phillips nailed it. We're all going to go very fast now,
Yeah,
gentlemen. Pete, number 2. And don't get caught up in the semantics, all right? Just read one statement. Let us all react.
Skins rushing yards against will improve from number 31 into the top 10.
Oof. That's a big jump, man. Bearish. I'm not sure about John Bostic at the middle of that defense.
I'm going to say I'm cubbish. Not like just close to equal, but cubbish.
I am
not a real thing.
What, really?
I am bullish because I believe the way to beat this defense is going to be through the air.
I like that.
I am Lance Briggs on the Bears-ish because I think this team's going to be playing from behind a lot. The offenses will be running the ball. And like JP said, I don't love the linebacker. I think this team will be better at pass rushing than they are at stopping the run.
Next, Pete.
Montez Sweat will lead the team in sacks.
Ooh. Now, Philly, you go first.
I am bearish. I think it will be Chase Young.
Ooh, I like that.
I think Chase Young is better than Montez Sweat today, right now.
I think I'm Kyle Orton on the Bears-ish on this one. I think it's Chase Young, and then even like Matt Ioannidis beats Montez. Montez will have a very good year and continue to ascend, but he will not lead the team in sacks.
I agree. I'm bearish on it. I think that those three between Ryan Kerrigan, Montez Sweat, and Chase Young are going to rotate through enough that it's going to be tough for any one of those three to lead the team in sacks.
JP Finlay.
Oh, he's frozen.
I think I'm freezing.
Okay. Oh, there you are. Nope.
There he is.
Gotcha.
and we might have lost
And
him.
3 to lead the team in sacks?
you're frozen.
He's questioning your statement that it'll be
Hello?
tough for one of those 3 to lead the team in sacks. Are you implying that like Jonathan Allen might?
I'm implying that I think it's going to be either Ioannidis or Allen that's going to lead the team in sacks because I think they're going to get the most passing down plays.
All right. I hope somebody can hear me because I am
We hear you.
Vladimir Putin bearish on what Mitch just said. I think it will absolutely be one of the edge rushers that leads the team in sacks. Like if I can wager edge rusher versus interior guy in sack leader, I got $100 on that for the year, Mitchell. No problem. That said, I'm bearish on Montez leading the team in sacks. I think it'll be Chase Young too.
All right, number 4. 3 different players will have 10-plus sacks.
No chance. Bears.
That's not a thing that happens.
Yeah.
Duh,
Bad news,
Bears.
Maybe 2,
Yeah.
probably just 1 with a bunch of 8 and 9s. And the last statement, the Redskins will have 4 Pro Bowlers and 3 will come from the defense, Sweat, Collins, and Ioannidis. Somehow he's leaving out Chase Young, so this statement is also tomfoolery already.
Wait, it has to be those 3?
Yeah, sure.
Let's just go 4. Let's say over under 4 Pro Bowlers.
Tressway and 3 defenders. I love it.
I don't know that they're getting 4 Pro Bowlers here. I got.
If they have 4 Pro Bowlers, it means that we are covering very relevant football in late December. That's a good thing.
Right.
I would love it. Or it means everybody else in the NFC gets hurt in December and doesn't want to go to the Pro Bowl.
Or the rest of the NFC is going to the playoffs.
Well, it is a 17 playoff now. So
I know.
That was fun. And here's what I want to do is people can send in more predictions and we'll run through them. I enjoyed that. Did we all enjoy that? Now, our scale was a little messed up and my Zoom kept freezing, but I still enjoyed it.
It was a good first attempt. Things will only get better from here.
I think your boy Pete's taking a lot of L's tonight, not knowing about time zones and then also not knowing about Bulls and Bears. We got to pull him out of this hole here, boys.
I think he kind of knew Bulls and Bears. Am I wrong?
Well,
I think
did
he got
get
it
that
right.
or no?
He
took the L because he refused to listen to what we were actually rating.
That segment was like the first scene of Saving Private Ryan. It's just so chaotic. No one knew what to do.
Well, and Mitch is giving you a hard time about not paying attention to the rules, and he said cubbish. Like that's it. Like that's a thing.
If we were sitting in a car, you would have punched Pete for trying to talk about the 5 different categories.
Okay, but I would have legitimately gotten out of the car when you said that one of the interior guys is going to lead in sacks because I would have gotten out of the car at that point.
Give me some odds. We can throw a wager down on that.
We'll sort that out. Maybe we reach out. I mean, the amount of offshore people that email me odds, maybe I'll get them to give me some odds.
Yeah, let's do that.
Philly, thank you. Any work of yours you want to plug? I know you're buying and selling newspapers these days. Any moves you're making?
I'm bouncing on vacation too, so it's richmond.com, the Richmond Times-Dispatch. It's a lovely place and lovely people, and I'm on vacation for the next week, so don't expect to see anything.
Hey, sincerely, I know you guys started doing real push for the digital subscriptions. I know you've had some success. Tell everybody about that. We have a ton of listeners down in Richmond, so I hope they're all subscribing to RTD.
Yeah, man, you got to have a subscription to read the stuff, which same way The Athletic does it, same way a lot of places do it. We don't work for free. We like being paid, but we have great coverage. I'll just step outside of it for a second. A lot of you guys probably saw the story this week that Virginia was fudging the numbers on the coronavirus testing, that they were including some other kind of test. It was like the antibody test in with the regular test.
But fudging them which way? Like more corona or less corona?
To less corona, making it look like they were good to reopen. That was us. Those were our people in there asking tough questions, getting answers. So we are sports, but if you live in Richmond, it is an investment in your community as well.
That is a great line. Investment in your community.
Philly, we're invested in you. We appreciate you. And despite the fact that you get no payment for being the bureau chief of the Redskins Talk podcast in Richmond, know that we love you and we appreciate your time. Thank you, everybody, for listening. We thank the good folks, Oarsman Automotive of Virginia. We ride with them. Want you to do the exact same thing. And if you made it this far, I owe you a beer. Big podcast coming for Memorial Day.